Allez-vous aller à la petite fête avec M. Charest ce soir?
Non, malheureusement, j'ai une autre réunion.
Okay.
Mais j'ai eu un appel de M. Charest dans la dernière course à la chefferie. Alors, je sais bien son politique et j'espère qu'il a une bonne course.
Êtes-vous intéressé par sa candidature? Êtes-vous intéressé par sa candidature?
Ah non, non, non. Je soutiens Pierre. Alors, ça c'est la...
I would like to hear you about Mr. Charest in English. I'm just curious.
Sure. Yes,
If you're not going to see him, do you think he'd make a good leader, though?
Honestly, he has done lots for the country. He's very well respected. He called me in the last leadership race, and we had a good discussion, so I understand very well his politics, and I wish him well.
You say you supported Mr. Poilievre. I wonder, he has said that the West has been weak in the face of Russia. I wonder whether you agree with that and what countries you think have been.
Well, I think I'm glad to see people stepping up. I mean, obviously, this is not a surprise. The Russians had been putting their field hospitals right at the border months ago. And so it's really been a slow response, I think, all the way around, but I'm glad to see people stepping up.
Cowering. Mr. Poilievre says some countries are cowering.
Well, that's a great question for him. Thanks.
Good morning. Mr. Charest is coming to town. Are you going to hear what he has to say?
You know what? I'll have to check my schedule, but I haven't had the opportunity to meet Mr. Charest before, so yeah.
You feel like going?
Are you interested in going tonight?
You know, I'm supporting Pierre Poilievre for leader of the party, and I think he's got the the right message for Canadians. He's got the right message for our members, so I'm very excited about that. I think it's really important that we have a good race where we have lots of different perspectives represented. Certainly there will be different ideas about conservatism represented by Mr. Charest.
Mr. Charest, okay, I understand you're supporting Poilievre, but do you think it would be good that Charest is in the race?
I think that anyone who aligns with conservative values, who wants to put their name forward, provided they meet the requirements set out by Leon.
I'm sorry.
I think we'll have to hear what he has to say.
What do you think about Mr. Poilievre saying that some in the West have been cowering in the face of Russia? Who's been cowering, Mr. Barrett?
That's a great question for Mr. Poilievre if he's coming down the stairs after me. But I think that there's certainly more that we can do to support democracies who are suffering under the weight of the illegal activities of Russia under Vladimir Putin.
Do you yourself call the West weak, sir, in the face of Russia?
I think that there's definitely more that we can do to support Western democracies who are trying to withstand the weight of the illegal activity, the illegal invasion by Russia.
Should Russian athletes compete in the Paralympic, and should they be allowed to come in Canada to compete in international competitions elsewhere?
When we have countries that and leaders of countries that choose to step outside of the international norms and international laws, then organizations need to look at, the independent organizations responsible for sporting events need to look at whether they want to include athletes from those countries, flying that flag alongside Western democracies.
It sounds like a no.
Well, you know what? It's not for Parliament to pronounce on individual agencies. But we had great concerns about Canadian athletes participating in the games in China, and I would have similar concerns.
Should athletes come in Canada for international competition here? Should we allow that?
It's a great question, but I think that it's problematic when we have representatives of a country coming to participate in games with Western democracies when their country's in the process of invading other Western democracies. So that's a big problem. The first thing that should happen is that the Trudeau government should be expelling the diplomats from the Russian Federation, from Canada, send them home from Ottawa, recall our ambassador from Moscow as well.
Do that if we recall our ambassadors? Is there not a risk of not knowing what's going on there? I mean, our ambassadors are our eyes and our ears in that country.
Yeah. So far, what we've heard from Russia in the lead up to this invasion, them starting a war with Ukraine, is dishonesty. It's been lies, and so we have eyes and ears on the ground there, and they're not engaging in good faith diplomacy. And so I think that if we're at the point where we're sending messages to Russia about the appropriateness of their behavior, we need to send very strong messages, and that includes recalling our diplomats.
I'm wondering, sir, the Deputy Prime Minister said yesterday that some Canadian sanctions that are coming could hurt the Canadian economy. I wonder to what extent you support sanctions that could cost Canadian jobs, that could hurt companies like Evraz out west.
You know, any of the actions that we take in support of Ukraine have the potential to hurt our economy. Any action that we take in participation with NATO has the potential to, of course, cost money, but also places our troops at risk to their lives and their safety. And we need to be live to what those costs are. But whether it's economic or whether it's militarily, you know, there are costs for standing up for international law, democracy, and what's right. And it's very important that we do that for Ukraine. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks.
Non, parce que j'ai besoin de travailler ici.
OK, mais aimeriez-vous qu'il se lance dans la course?
Oui, je pense que c'est une bonne idée pour beaucoup de candidats d'entrer dans la course. J'encourage tout le monde de penser à cette décision.
Pense que M. Charest pourrait comme diviser le parti. Vous, qu'est-ce que vous en pensez?
Non, absolument non. Je pense que nous sommes un grand parti de la Confédération, et on a besoin de diversité des points de vue.
Are you ruled out running? Yeah. Are you considering a run?
I haven't ruled it out yet, but right now I'm focused on two things, focused on my role here as Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs, and secondly, focused on thinking about in the coming weeks what I can do to help my party and my country.
Mr. Chong, one of your MPs,
This is the last question.
who happens to be a leadership candidate, Mr. Poilievre, has said that the West has been weak against Russia and that some European countries have been cowering before Russia. Do you think that that is the kind of message that Canadian parliamentarians should be sending right now?
Our position is that Europe and Canada and the United States and the United Kingdom have presented a united front to counter Russia's aggression and President Putin's aggression with strong measures that we support. Our position is also, our view is also that NATO has been brought together by this threat coming from President Putin and the Russian Federation, and it is working more cohesively and more strongly than it has in the past 10 years. Thank you very much.
Long or short race? Are you going to go see Mr. Charest tonight?
I'll go see anybody that's running for leadership.
But what do you
It's an
want to
important time for our party, so.
Are you going? I mean, there is a party get together. So are you going?
I have to take a look at my schedule, but of course, anybody that's going to run for leader of a party, I'd love to meet them.
Are you open to the idea of supporting Mr. Charest?
I just want to. Right now, I don't know who's running for leader right now, so I'm open to the idea of hearing from anybody who's running for us.
But do you think it's a good idea for him to be in the race? Do you think it's a good idea for him to be in the race?
It's a good idea for us to have as many, experienced candidates in the race as possible.
So you're not opposed to his candidacy?
I would oppose anybody's candidacy. We want to get as many people involved in our party as we can.
Mr. Poilievre said that the West has been weak in the face of Russia, that the Western countries have been cowering before Putin. Do you agree with that assessment?
I think that we have to do more, absolutely, right now. I'm going to sneak back into caucus right now, but we need to do more, clearly.
Countries are cowering, sir.
Long, short race?
Actually, you know what? I will weigh in on one
Yeah,
thing.
long or short race?
No, I'm going to weigh in on one more thing that's different than you're asking. I'll weigh in on representation in the House of Commons right now, an important issue. So I represent an area that has 209,000 people, 45,000 more constituents than the second biggest riding in the country right now. If my riding had the same proportions as PEI, we would have 6 Conservative members of Parliament from my region. So I will support any initiative that gets to fairer representation
Is that a
in this
reference to
country.
the Bloc Québécois?
I got to go in back into caucus.
Poilievre saying the West is weak in the face of Russia. The Western countries have been cowering, European countries.
The West is weak?
Mr. Poilievre said that.
I think Pierre was talking about the lead up to this, and because Europe's dependency on Russian energy, they were not able to offer a fulsome support for Ukraine the way we're seeing now.
Cowering. He said countries were cowering. Which
Well,
countries?
I'm just responding. I haven't read the quote, so I'm just telling you the message behind it was what dependence on Russia comes with a cost. Canada can play a role in writing that, so the West and NATO allies are better positioned to deal with Russia.
Est-ce que vous allez voir M. Charest ce soir? Allez-vous voir M. Charest ce soir?
No, Seulement parce que j'ai déjà des choses à faire sur mon agenda. Moi, j'étais un délégué pour M. Charest il y a 29 ans.
bon?
Je suis encore ami avec lui, mais
Êtes-vous
moi,
content
moi,
qu'il
moi,
fasse
moi,
ça?
moi,
Et
mais
là,
moi,
vous,
mais moi,
vous
j'habite
avez
Fiat.
l'appuyer,
Mr. Chong, can we talk to you about sanctions for a second? Wonderful.
Sorry, I gotta get
That's
stuff out of my ear here.
The Prime Minister earlier was musing about the idea that Canadian companies that might be affected by sanctions against Russians should be compensated or otherwise helped. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that the sanctions should be focused on oligarchs close to President Putin. I think it's clear he has amassed an immense amount of wealth. It's rumored to be upwards of $100 billion. And so I think the Canadian government should move to sanction oligarchs who have assets here in Canada who are close to President Putin.
A lot of the oligarchs also, they do many things, and they also have charitable endeavors. They give a lot of money to various groups. What about that piece of it? Do you think, charities and things that have connections to some of these oligarchs should also be concerned?
Well, I think, in the context of the war in Ukraine, I think we have to have a coordinated effort across the Western Alliance to make it clear to those oligarchs who support President Putin, that they no longer can operate with impunity in Western democracies. And so I think sanctions against oligarchs with assets here, not only in Canada, but in Europe, the United Kingdom, and the United States, is an important part of the measures the government needs to implement in order to counter these threats from Russia.
Est-ce que le gouvernement canadien cible les bonnes personnes présentement quand vient le temps des sanctions autour des gens de M. Poutine?
Nous pensons que le gouvernement doit implémenter des mesures, des sanctions contre des oligarques qui sont proches de le président Poutine.
Est-ce qu'on fait ça présentement ou est-ce qu'on devrait être plus précis?
Nous pensons que le gouvernement doit faire d'autres sanctions, plusieurs sanctions contre des individus comme ça.
Et si les compagnies canadiennes ont des problèmes avec des contrats qui sont maintenant annulés parce qu'ils ne peuvent plus exporter en Russie, est-ce que le gouvernement devrait compenser ces entreprises?
Maintenant, notre position est de faire un appel au gouvernement d'implémenter des sanctions contre des oligarques qui sont proches.
Les entreprises canadiennes?
Notre position, c'est pour le gouvernement d'implémenter des sanctions, plusieurs, contre les oligarques qui sont proches de M. Poutine. I'll take one more question and I have to go.
I think the similar issue in
Yeah.
English, and I'll get you to turn a little bit more
Sure.
towards the camera, sorry. Minister Freeland was warning yesterday there could be repercussions for the Canadian economy, that they obviously will not be as severe as some European economies. But I guess what would you say to Canadians, Canadian businesses who might be feeling some trepidation about sanctions that would hurt Canada?
Well, we believe that the sanctions should be focused on the assets of oligarchs close to President Putin. It's clear that he has been sustained in power because of a web of support that he has built over the last 20 years that consists of these powerful oligarchs. And we think that that is the most effective way to counter his leadership and support the Russian people, particularly the Russian opposition, as they try to restore a modicum of democracy in the Russian Federation.
But if it hurts the economy is the question. Or if it hurts our economy, if it were to hurt a Canadian company, for instance.
So our view is that sanctioning oligarchs by seizing their assets is a balance sheet issue. It's not an issue that affects the P&L and operations of Canadian companies operating here in Canada. Thank you very much.
Thank you.